everybody that this is being recorded, and it will be available on social media. Okay, so be aware of that. We also have to recognise that the Council has a general duty to consider the following matters in the exercise of its functions: equal opportunities, race, gender, sexual orientation, marital status and any disability, crime and disorder, health and safety and human rights. We are inviting the public and press. You are cordially invited. Welcome. Before we move on to the items on the agenda, we open with the public discussion of the items on the agenda. And I would open it up to all of you now to have that discussion. May I remind you that we on the Council will listen to what you have to say. We will not interrupt you, and we will take into account what you've said, but we will not necessarily act upon it. You must understand. Okay, who would like to kick off with comments? Jill doesn't seem to be here. I can't see Jill.
I can see her, I can't hear her.
I can't see her or hear her.
She's on mute at the moment.
I don't even think she's on mute. I don't think she has any noise.
Because I know she's got something to say about this item.
He's showing us on mute.
Yeah, she's on mute.
Can somebody unmute her? Because I can't seem to.
Chairman?
I've unmuted myself.
Okay. Chairman?
Charlie's not on mute.
No.
I'm going to have to leave. I'm sorry. I've got a knock at the door.
Okay. Does somebody else want to say anything about the items on the agenda?
Chairman?
Yes.
Can we just know whether you are facilitating the chat bar or not?
I'm sorry. I don't know who said. I can't see.
I can't see it.
This is Rebecca Knox here.
Yeah, we saw you earlier, Rebecca, but I can't see you now.
I'm back. And I'm...
David, do you need to scroll across your screen?
I can see her.
So are you using the chat bar in this meeting, or is that not something that you are using? So
you can.
I've no idea what.
I've been trying to get hold of Sue via the chat bar, but I don't think she's responding.
Right. Okay. I'm just wondering how people are going to alert you to whether they want to speak, whether they are raising their hands visually, whether they are using the chat bar, or how you are going to facilitate that.
I was assuming that people would raise their hands, but
Hi.
Can see them.
I'm quite
You are
happy.
connected. We can all see you, but we can't hear you.
Let's pause for a moment until we get everyone online.
I can only see 9 participants, and yet
I can only see 9 as well.
Okay.
I can see 12.
Right.
15.
I can see 12.
I can see 9.
I can see 9.
The most important thing is that you've got all your councillors visual to you.
All the councillors are visual.
That's
Yes.
good. Okay.
How do we activate the chat bar?
So if you go to the bottom of the screen, you should have where you can mute yourself or stop your video. There's participants, which says there are 13 participants. And then there's a little bubble that says chat.
It's under more. If you go to more and hit
Okay.
on more, you'll find chat down there.
Oh, I see. Just chat.
Oh, I see.
That's come right up into the middle of the screen now. I can't see anybody.
Indeed.
So maybe you don't want to. It's just whether you're using it or not. If you're not using it, then I think it's important to state that you're not using chat and that you're going to rely on people raising their hands in the screen as I am now.
Okay, but I can't see you. That's the trouble.
Oh, you
Close
can't
it.
see me.
Close the chat
No, I
down,
can't.
David. There should, have you got an X in the corner of the group chat or a close button?
Yeah, Jill's coming up. She might have an idea.
You on your iPad?
Yeah.
Or just scroll the screen?
Okay.
So what did you
I've
do,
got-
Dave?
Scroll
Oh, yes.
scroll
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So you get some there and some there.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Shall I start again?
Why not?
Has anybody got anything to say about any of the items on the agenda?
I have, Jill.
Please go ahead.
It's about the planning application for coach and horses, and I don't know if you want me to say my bit now or wait until that item comes up on the agenda.
I want you to say it now, please.
Okay. Well, I have made an objection online to Dorset Council. And I have mentioned the fact that yet again, Mr. Harris has put in retrospective planning permission when prompted to do so. I've commented about the loss of the pub, but I'm particularly concerned about the building plans that have been submitted for the current application, because what they're saying is the existing plan at the moment is actually the plan, the proposed plan that they submitted in 2016 and again in 2018, showing some various features on the ground floor that I'm aware of that aren't actually or haven't been in place and aren't in place at the moment. For instance, the toilets are not where the plan shows. And it does create some doubt over the reliability and accuracy of the plans that they're submitting if what they're saying is currently in place isn't actually in reality in place. I'm concerned about current entrance to the bar, which is now on the main road, and opens directly onto shared space for cars and pedestrians, and I don't see how that can possibly be safe for entering or exiting after a couple of beers. I'm very concerned about the wooden fence being erected on top of breeze blocks, which is incredibly tall, when the maximum height for a fence adjoining the highway should be 1 metre. It also looks really, really ugly and is totally out of place in the conservation area, which is our village. I'm concerned about the two residential units they've created, because they've also put in for a manager's flat, which makes a third residential unit, leaving only 4 B&B rooms, where in the application form they say there's 5 rooms. Water have already put in 4 connections for residential units, so it does look as if the medium to long-term plan is to close the hotel and just create residential. And they've also identified on the car park that there's unused space, which suggests that there's potential there for further development. And as a next door neighbour, I'm objecting to most of what they'll be doing. Thank you. That's my little bit.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment?
Are you including councillors at this stage?
No.
No, okay.
No, this is for the public. Have we got Sue on audio yet?
think I saw her.
No.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's an animal of some kind.
Oh yes, my cat. Sorry, she's had to join me. I've had to put her on a different machine.
Oh right, so that's your cat, is it? I see.
We are going to get a bit of.
Do you want Sue to come up here, John, and ask what?
We can't keep sending. Sue is a refugee around the village.
Right, that's right. Well, I've got my iPad.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, carry on.
Anybody, are you happy for me to move on then?
Yes, yeah.
I think so, David. Yes. No one else seems to want to say anything.
Okay, fine. Right. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Let's move on then to the agenda. And item 1, those present, and apologies. We have received apologies, haven't we not, Jane?
Yes, we've had apologies from Yvonne Harris and also from Martin Gillingham, our river warden, and from Alex Bishop, our community police officer.
Thank you. Item 2, the minutes. I hope by now that we've all seen the minutes. They've been on the Parish Council notice board since the last meeting. Would anyone like to volunteer to accept the minutes? That's Chris, and seconded Jonathan.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Item 3, matters arising from the minutes and raised by members. First one, Pipplepen's solar farm project. We have had some feedback from Elgin Energy just this afternoon, in fact. Jane, could you inform the meeting of what they said, please?
Indeed, I will read an email that I received from Michelle Howley, who was with us at the last meeting, and I've been in contact with her since, trying to keep up to date with what's going on. And I will read her email of this afternoon. Dear Jane, following feedback from the local residents, we revisited the construction access element of the project, and after helpful discussions with the landowner, technical surveys and legal and planning checks, we can confirm that an alternative access option via the A356 is a viable solution. The access point is on the A356 just to the east of Holt Farm, and I'm led to believe that's the old entrance to the golf club, but I haven't been up there and can't confirm that.
No, it's not. It's not, Jane. Sorry, it's not the entrance to the golf club. It's beyond the golf club, on the corner.
Okay.
You know that there's a sharp bend just after Holt Farm.
Right. It's up there.
Yeah, access through there. Yeah.
Okay. This access track leads to the proposed solar farm at Pipplepen Farm and is currently used for agricultural machinery. And although it is in good condition, some stretches will require upgrading and in places will require widening. The construction access upgrades will be crushed stone and will be permeable in nature, and there will be no tarmac. We will update the project website in the next week or so with the new plans and further details on the construction access. Because of this new development, they have not yet put their application in. They will be doing so hopefully in October. And it will now obviously go to both South Somerset District Council as well as Dorset Council. Michelle, if there's any questions, please, let her know. So that's the update I have had this afternoon.
Thank you. Any questions from councillors?
I think that's a better option than going into Pipplepen Lane from the 3
Yes. Yeah.
We're still going to get, presumably, we're still going to get heavy construction traffic going through South Perrott. But
Presumably, yeah. I don't know where they're coming from, really.
no, quite. If they're coming from Dorchester, we're away.
We're okay. Yeah.
But if they're coming from the Crewkerne end, then they're still going to be coming through, and they'll be going through now. They'll be going through that pinch point at the end of Picket Lane, which could be an issue, unless, of course, on our previous one, which I think Marion Morris raised about traffic lights, temporary traffic lights.
Yes.
Which may actually sort out the problem at the end of Picket Lane. For a while anyway. But if they're still going to be coming through the village, and going up to Holt Farm, they are going to go past the end of Picket Lane and through that pinch point. Yes. Which is the only issue I can see with it. Apart from that, I think it's much better.
The only issue that I can see is that is a very dangerous corner, and we've had numerous accidents on that corner, on that bend, and we would have to be very careful about how they turned in, especially if they were coming down from the Dorchester end. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a better option.
Yeah.
Any other comments, B?
I'm okay with it at the moment.
Okay. Jonathan?
I think it's a much better solution, especially as I understand there's going to be 150 people working on site.
Yes, it's a lot, isn't it?
Quite a lot. Down, going out for lunch. Down Pipple Pen Lane. Yeah. I want to get out the end as well. It's going to be quite a lot of traffic.
So would you like me to go back to Michelle saying that we, as a council, we are much happier with this new proposed access? And would you like me to mention the concern about the construction traffic through the village and the pinch point?
And also stress, I agree, yes, all those things, plus say something about the fact that we have had accidents on that corner, because traffic comes down very quickly from the top of the hill, and a lot of people are caught by surprise by the sharpness of that left-hand turn, the way that the road curves to the left, and it's slightly adverse camber. And we have had cars turning over there. I think if Anthony could nod just to say that that's happened, because you were involved. Yes, indeed. Thank you. So we need to be aware of that. Okay. Any more comments on that item? Right, finger post. I'm afraid this is an ongoing issue. Jane, do you want to talk about that as well?
I have tried repeatedly since the last meeting to get hold of Mike Charles up in Cheddington. So I've phoned him and left messages. I have written to him, and David and I went and knocked on his door, and we've heard nothing. I also asked his neighbour, who I know, for him to get in touch, and I'm afraid we're just getting no response whatsoever from this. Because there's been no response, I've been in contact with Dorset Council, asking them about the possibility of replacing the sign with a like for like, and if they can't do a like for like, what would they be prepared to do for us? And I'm awaiting a reply on that one.
Thank you. Any comments? All right. Okay. Well, it does seem as though Mike Charles has disappeared off the face of the earth, or something. My inquiries have led nowhere, and as Jane said, we went up mob-handed to knock on the door, but the house seemed completely empty, devoid of life. Right, moving on then. We'll wait on that item. We'll wait for Dorset to come back with suggestions, and then we can move forward. Okay. Langmore Lane. Sue, can you give us any more information about about Langmore Lane?
Excuse me, one moment. I'm going to shut a window.
Okay. Can we hear Sue?
Sorry.
Oh.
We've still got mute.
They're on mute.
Hooray! Sue, go ahead. Oh, briefly.
Just put it on mute again.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
Ray, yes.
Great,
yes.
great.
You're on a different
Right.
camera now. Yeah.
Ray, well, not less than an hour ago, I was just saying I had a phone call from Russell Goff, the senior ranger for this area. And in response to an email I'd sent him on the 2nd of September. Anyway, the good news is he said that they're just waiting for quotes for Langmore Lane and they should be received imminently. As soon as they are received, work will commence on the lane there. So it should be hopefully, oh, you've got the cat now. He's going to say a few words. Anyway, hopefully it will be in the next couple of weeks. I have other things to update you on, but I can leave that till I do the footpaths officer's report.
That would be good, Sue. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
As long as we get to hear you, that's great.
Right, okay.
Thank you for that. So that sounds like very positive news. Thank you very much for following up on that.
Yeah, it does sound encouraging, yes.
Great. Speed watch scheme. Right, now we have had a response, believe it or not, within the last couple of hours of this meeting. Funny that. Jane, can you give some outline? Sorry to keep landing you with all these things, but they've just arrived, haven't they?
Yeah, no problem. So I've been in contact with traffic at Dorset Council, and they run a speed watch scheme and also the speed indicator device system scheme as well. And if we decided to go for this, we have to go along with Dorset. We can't go off on our own. They made it absolutely clear to start with. This has to be gone through Dorset Council. There are various steps to go through. The first one would be a speed survey, which could cost up to about £250. As a result of that, there was a decision by Dorset Council whether a speed indicator device system might be allowed, and there are various criteria to be met. If they agree it, the basic cost would be £2,495 plus VAT for the speed indicator device system, and the installation would be extra, between £300 to £500. And then there's the ongoing costs, for example, the batteries and servicing that takes place. They have sent me a little leaflet about it, and if anybody wants me to send that on to them, I will do so after the meeting. And they do suggest that if we are interested in any way, we make an arrangement for them to come out one day to look at where we are and give their advice as to whether it's something that might be possible.
Thank you, Jane. I think we missed a little bit, didn't we? I did anyway. My audio went down briefly. I think we're looking at £3,000. Is that correct?
£3,000 is the basic cost plus VAT for the actual device, and then the installation and ongoing costs are on top of that.
Right. Okay. Comments, people, please.
Do we have an idea of where we'd want to place it? Because if you consider the one that's in Mosterton, you've got a nice long straight in which to indicate to people, you're going too quick before you hit the village, could you slow down a bit? I know we've got the downhill bit, but it doesn't feel like it's wide enough to get a speed indicator there. And if we're going the other way around the village, it's all corners up that end, and you don't have time to tell people to just take their foot off. So I'd just be interested to see what people's views on where that might want to be sited if we did go for it.
Yes, Chris.
I think it would be better on the straight, for the simple reason that is where people are speeding from. Because of the corners going through the village, they necessarily have to slow down anyway. but coming down that straight is where the speeding seems to occur. And I don't think, really, to be quite honest, I don't think people realise what speed they're doing. And the other thing is, I don't think that 30 miles, I think that you should be 20 and not 30 at that point, because I think 30 is too quick to go through that pinch point.
Yeah, you're quite right. Yeah, we've been exploring a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for some time.
I know it's difficult. I think we have to first of all get a school.
Yes, that's right.
And then we can have a 20-mile limit. But I don't know what else we can have that would necessitate a 20-mile limit. Perhaps there's something else we could bring into the village that we could that we could use for it. But I don't know whether we can get a 20-mile limit without having a special thing like a school or an old folks home. That might do it.
Well, I've got one here.
Yes.
Well, I think
it's an
all
awful
this
lot of money.
Well, exactly. My view is that this information has come in too late for us to make a balanced judgment at this time.
Can I just ask? Sorry, can I just
Pete?
ask? One camera, one sign, or two flashing signs? Is that a price for one or two?
I'm afraid, B, I'm not absolutely sure. I've sort of got the impression that you can have two signs that you can stand on. You can move it between the two. So,
Right.
so in Moston, for example, sometimes it's at the north end of the village for a period of time, and then it's not. It's down at the south end. It's only one device, and whoever it is moves it between the two.
All right. The only reason why I ask is both sides of the village seem to be are an issue in terms of traffic speeding. One is that obviously down the hill when traffic comes down the hill into the village from the Dorchester end, and the other end is where it comes from the Crooken end. And I know from driving up towards Crooken, that corner is quite a dangerous corner where traffic comes around quite fast, and they don't realise that it's such a sharp bend coming into the village.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly locate one there, I would have thought, in that section, which is 40 miles an hour.
I think it's 30 coming into the village, but we'd have to place it.
It goes 40 first of all, doesn't it? And then it becomes 30.
30 into the village, but it's that bend that comes right,
Yeah, I know, that's what you, yeah.
That's a really dangerous corner, because I've actually walked there and been, well, quite frightened, in fact, of cars coming around at great speeds.
Yes.
David, is it worth going back to them and asking if there's any charge for them to come out and advise us?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Because until we've got whether it's even feasible, because of the space they need to put these things up, and if you're going to do a speed watch, where are people going to stand, and all those things. So before we make any decisions, should I ask them whether that might be feasible?
That's an excellent idea. Yes. And also, if you could circulate the pamphlet round to members of the council, we'll be in a better position to make some kind of decision based on value for money, really. Okay, is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, the parish council notice board. I got a nasty shock, actually, to be honest. I asked a chippy a carpenter to give us a quote for replacing the existing notice board and perhaps extending it in the way that we suggested last time, to include a map of the village. And it's horrendously expensive. In the end, he said it would be better to go to a manufacturer who produces these things as specialist producers. And Chris sent me a useful link, and I got another link from the carpenter. And basically what we're looking at is somewhere between £1,000 and £1,300 for the notice board itself, plus on top of that several £100s to put the thing up. Now, I don't know what your opinion is. This, let me make it clear. This is a high quality notice board, so it's made of oak, and it will last for a long time. Obviously, it seems to be pointless to get anything which is lower quality than that. So I don't know what you think. I mean, my view is that the notice board is about to collapse. In one sense, we don't have much choice, but I open it up to discussion. So I think what we're looking at is 2,000 quid, to be brutal.
Can I start? That seems an awful lot of money. I think we should investigate possibly other options if they're available.
What kind of options?
I think we should have a look out in the market a bit harder. I find it difficult to have a glass-fronted cabinet on legs costing nearly £2,000. It just seems
that was
mad.
My view too. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems an awful lot of money for. I might be wrong. These things might be expensive, but can anybody remember how we got one outside of the village hall, or how we got one in the? Oh, Chris, go on.
Yes, I did look online for notice boards, and you can get them made, and you can pay up to £5,000 for a really good one. Now, we don't want to pay anything like that, but the cheaper ones, and you can get cheap ones, but they really look cheap. That's the only way I can describe it, and they would probably last 2 years maximum. So there doesn't seem to be very much, what I could see online, there doesn't seem to be very much between, say, £500 and £1,500. There's almost nothing mid cost, really. But that was just, that was just me one morning looking. I suspect you may be right that if we dug deeper, we could find something else. But I couldn't, for myself, I just couldn't see one.
Okay. Well, I looked too, and I couldn't find anything. Marion's waving desperately. Just or Anthony.
Chairman, I was on the council when the existing notice board was put up. It cost £700 at the time. This is several years ago. And we thought it was outrageously expensive as it was.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll continue with our investigations. B, yes.
I was just going to suggest something, a different way of approaching it, if you like. In terms of notices that we have, maybe we don't have one that's enclosed, signs that are enclosed, and we think about laminating our signs before we put them up, so they're, they stand the weather for a period of time. The notices that we put up, because they're not permanent notices, are they?
Well, all the minutes have to go up, and then there are other.
They can be laminated, and then withstand the weather, so they could be just on a board that we put up.
Well,
it's another way to think of it.
Yeah.
If we haven't got the finances to spend the sort of money that we're looking at.
We have got the money, but it's a question of whether you think it's value for money. That's the important thing, isn't it? I think that the feeling of the meeting. Maybe ask at the man shed in Crewkerne. I don't know what the man shed in Crewkerne is.
Yes. It's up near the old pub, and it's where people go and do their own thing. Sort of people that are retired, men that are retired that used to be chippies or used to be. There's all sorts of trades, if you like, that go on there.
Can you unmute Marion? Jonathan?
I can't unmute people. I can. I can mute them, but I can't unmute them.
Ah. So Marion, you're going to have to unmute yourself. Okay. Right. If you could record, Jane, that we've had a suggestion of the man shed, and we will do further research before the next meeting.
Marion, do you have a
Okay.
my next question? Thank you, Marion.
Okay, that's terrific. Can I ask all councillors, please, to do some research on this?
I've done it now.
Oh, you've done it.
Well done.
Hooray! The man shed is up where, going up towards the cemetery, and it's where a lot of retired or other gentlemen go to make things in wood. So you'd be able to sell them it as a community project, even if you had to buy the wood. You never know.
Well, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good idea. Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or try any of the building companies that have got apprentice joiners. They might do that as a project for a community thing if you agreed to buy the wood.
Well, that would be terrific. Yes.
When I lived in Essex and was married to we actually built several community projects with our joinery apprentices.
Okay.
It's only a thought. That's all.
Oh, it's a brilliant thought. Thank you very much. Okay.
I'll start now.
It was delightful to hear from you, Marion, and we appreciated the signs even more. Okay. Okay, so let me just reiterate then. We will pursue alternatives, and if councillors could continue to do their own research, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Come back to the next meeting. Okay. Next is reports from Dorset Councillor, Police Officer, River Warden and Footpaths Officer. I have had reports from... Have you all had reports from the police and the River Warden?
Yes.
Okay. For the benefit of the general public, basically, the River Warden's report is essentially says that it's been a very quiet period, and the police report is if you have a quad bike or outbuildings, make sure, can you review your security, because there have been some thefts in the Burton Bradstock stroke Punnell area. There was also apparently a report of a suspicious incident in Hullstock, where a male was seen around some garages in the early hours of Monday morning. He said that he was security and looked over the garages. He was smartly dressed and appeared to have an Irish accent. I ask that people remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity to us on 101 or online at www.dorsetpolice.uk. Right, shall we go to Footpaths Officer, and then we'll go to the Dorset Councillor. So Sue, wherever you are, I haven't got you up on my screen.
I'm now on my iPad in Jonathan's house.
Okay.
But anyway, I did have a written report prepared, but as I say, about an hour or so ago, Russell Goff contacted me and updated on a number of things. So if I just go through the list, it's quite good news actually. Footpath number 1, which is the footpath from Pipplepen Lane, just behind the old school, to the county boundary at Wood Dairy Farm, which in fact Jane and I traversed the other day. He said that one of his team, Russell Goff said, one of his team is coming out next week. He can't tell me which day. He's actually going to put a wooden sleeper across where there's a big gully, which in fact Jane very kindly helped me across by the first field. That should be done very soon. also, he's going to arrange to have way markers put along that stretch too. I also mentioned the footpath going from Pipplepen Lane. As you probably know, since we've had it rented out to a contractor, a lot of the fields have been ploughed up, and people have found their own ways, usually by eventually joining Landmore Lane again. So although people are finding their way up to Mosterton without too much trouble, they're probably not following the official path. However, I now have a new piece of software, if ever I get to find out how to use it, and it's actually called Avenza Maps. And if you actually overlay this with the Dorset Council Explorer, then apparently you can actually use it to follow a footpath or the actual correct footpath. So I will have to try and install that. I think, Jane, you've had a go, and but it's about getting onto our iPhones. The other thing he said was, if we wanted to replace stiles with gates, we could do so at a cost of £180 per gate. He said that the council would supply and install free of charge, and he said it could be that they would be able to meet 50% of the cost of these gates. Well, again, we would need to do a survey and see where there are stiles where it might be viable, which will obviously improve access. I think all I would say generally then about footpaths is that obviously they are being fairly well walked at the moment by both hikers and dog walkers. And although we're going to put something about dog excrement in the pump and pounds, and I would say that some of the footpaths, particularly the bridleway actually at Bailey's Lane, recently there was a spate of people actually bothering to bag up their dog's mess, but then leaving them as ornaments hanging on the branches as you walked up towards the river there. And I do know that some of the local, usually it's the other dog walkers who are clearing up other people's mess. So I would urge the very few people, we're going to put this in the pump and pound, to clear their dog's mess. Now, the final thing, which I will mention, because Russell Goff not only is responsible for footpaths, but also for the grass verges along the highways. And he said the grass verge at the corner of Letcher Lane with the A3066 has now been designated by them as an area for wildflowers. This means it's going to be kept clear much more frequently than it is now, and of course the wildflowers will not be growing to the height of the brambles and bracken and other things that are currently growing there. So really I think that's as much as I need to say now.
Thanks,
other
Sue.
than keep on walking the paths. Oh, and
Yeah.
thank you to all those people, by the way, who have actually been going up their secateurs and also cutting back the foliage.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Sue? Do I gather that the Letcher Lane 3056 is the Mosterton end?
Yes.
Of Letcher Lane, yeah.
Yes,
That corner bit where you...
Very dangerous, yes.
It's difficult to see, yeah, okay. Thank you, that's fine. Any other questions for Sue? Thank you very much. Rebecca, please.
Yes, hello, thank you, Chairman. A couple of things. I'm actually going to pick up on some of the issues you've raised this evening, but before I do that, I should just alert you to what Dorset Council are doing as a whole across the council, rather than getting into the local aspects, which I will do now. You will have seen that there's various national government advice about the current situation that we're in at the moment. I just want to assure you that from Dorset Council's perspective, we have a really good governance arrangement and officer arrangement for local outbreak. So if there is a local outbreak in a school, plans are in place to ensure that we can manage that locally. There are currently 4 schools who are subject to local outbreak management plans within the Dorset Council area. I happen to be on the board that looks at that. We were slightly, I suppose, we get information about lockdowns just as you do on the radio. So the change from whatever we have been enjoying to the 6th, which is going to be deployed across the whole of the nation on Monday. My personal opinion is that indeed we should be doing the local outbreak management plan rather than the national, but that is what is now being brought in. But I just wanted to let you know that Dorset is absolutely prepared for local as well as complying with national. What I can't do is assure you that the enforcement will be there, because that's a matter for police. And I think they're going to be hard stretched to do that enforcement. But I hope that people in Dorset, and we have kept our numbers very, very low, that we continue as a community to adhere to the social distancing that we have been advised to do. Just before I get local again, we are going to be very, very stretched as Dorset Council on the finances. I believe that, and there is a financial plan that can get us through next year, but that's dependent on selling some assets. It's dependent on some really good management of our finances for the last couple of years. We have actually taken some decisions very recently to try and address the revenue spend. So we've got a lot of revenue going out in children's services. A lot of people talk about adult social services, but actually our spend on children is just going up and up and up. But we've just recently decided that instead of spending money on other capital issues, we've got an opportunity to provide some county support for children in care. So, because we've got too many who are going out of county, or indeed not having the facilities for them to be able to be in a safe place. So we've just invested some money into children in care, or rather children who are about to go in care, and not sending them out of county, because that costs us on our revenue spend. You've mentioned a couple of things which locally, speed in the village. I would urge you to have a conversation, Jane and the chairman, to have a conversation with Broad Windsor and Mosterton, but Broad Windsor in particular. I helped them get in place the 20 miles per hour. There are 2 stages, but there is a process that you can go through. But it does depend on having the evidence, and that comes from your local Speedwatch team. in essence, the whole package for getting a 20 miles per hour for Broad Windsor was about £6,000, which it had to come out of the parish council's budget. But it's working. I know, I drive through there every day. And I would urge you also to contact Blair Turner, who is your local community highways officer, who will get you through the red tape and put you in touch with the right people. Last week I was talking, well, actually it might have been this week. Well, the benefit of having a virtual meeting is that you can get some of these officers online to your meetings. So only this week, Musterton, we had Mike Potter, who is the Highways Transport Safety person, on their parish council meeting to actually talk about how you can look at ways to ensure that you've got extra, the right process for getting speed limits. And I'm just going to say this, because I also had a meeting online with Musterton last week on Friday. It was so evident that you need your community on side. Because I do remember, and I think some of you online tonight will remember, that there was a solution proposed for the village, and at the very end of that discussion it was thrown out, and that was really, really disappointing, because there was a solution there. It was going to cost £20,000. It sounded ideal, but in the end the local community didn't support it, and that was incredibly frustrating. And I don't think your parish council need to go through that again, because you could, if it had been accepted, have what you're now asking for. And I'm just saying, just make sure you've got community involvement in this discussion, because the last thing you want to do is to go through that situation where you don't have community involvement. It's really, really important. The next, so Blair Turner is important, and I'd also add in to that mix is Mike Potter, who is the Community Highway Safeway Officer. But please, as a parish council, understand where your community going to go, because it's really disappointing when there's an offer and then it's not supported locally. You have Sue has talked about the footpaths and issues. They are footpaths generally over the whole of the council area are being used far more than they used to be, because of what's happening. I think that's fantastic, because people need to get out and it's lovely. But just be a bit, and I think you are being realistic from what you're saying, because you are looking at investing yourselves. The council, Dorset Council, cannot support every improvement. Landowners do need to do their bit. I know it's hard work, and actually most landowners want to do their bit. There's a communications issue with the public to also do their bit, which is to not take advantage. We don't have right to roam. You have a right of way, you keep the right of way, and you do that. and I'm sure communications out of the parish council that would really help in your area, just to ensure that you've got that management under control with your local landowners. So please work with your landowners. Again, I'm sorry to highlight it, but Broad Windsor they have a local community website, and the landowners are able to put out messages about visiting the area and visiting the rights of way, but behave properly. If you can do that through your bulletins, that would be really helpful. There's an item on the agenda tonight which is to do with planning. I'm just going to, if it's all right with you, Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit, but this is really important. So there is an item on the agenda to do with a planning matter. I, as your local Dorset councillor, have the ability, if it is for your, whatever decision you take, to have the ability to, if your decision doesn't concur with the officers of the Dorset Council, I have the ability to ask that the decision is taken at a committee level rather than an officer level. So I'm going to not take part in any of the discussion. That would be totally not right for me, because I need to stay impartial. But what I just want to say is, say you decide that the decision is to reject, then the officers decide to agree. They then have to ask me and the chairman of and the vice chairman of the planning committee, if, because you've said something opposed to the officers, whether we need to take it to committee. If you agree and the officers agree, they won't ask me. But if your decision is contrary to the planning officer's decision, then I will be asked whether it should go to committee, because it is very unusual for your decision tonight is really important, and me and the chairman and the vice chairman of the planning committee have the ability to have an input into where the final decision is taken. I hope I've explained that. It is complicated and it's frustrating maybe at times, but Chairman, I'll leave it at that, and I can answer any question on procedure, but I hope you understand that what I can't do is put forward my view, because it's predetermination if I do at this stage. So yes. Chairman, I'm going to leave that with you, and I'm very happy to answer queries on that and anything else I've said.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Over to you, councillors. Anything that you would like to ask Rebecca relevant to all the issues that she raised? There were many there, really, both national and local. Some great ideas that we will follow up. I don't know, any comments about speed watch or the trying to get the speed limit reduced? Any comments?
I'm due to speak to the Mosterton person who's running their SID thing tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
So I'll be able to get a bit more information on that. I'm also very happy to get in contact with Broad Windsor as well and have a chat to the clerk and see who the right person there is to talk to.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
That's so good. And they've had a really good success on that. So thank you, Jane.
Okay. Chris, were you trying to say something? No. Thank you very much, Rebecca. That was very informative. And I think the position regarding the planning applications is very clear. I hope it's clear. Well, it's clear to me. I hope it's clear to other people. So we then move on to item 5, which is on planning. We have A, applications handled since last meeting, none. B, decisions notified by Dorset Council since last meeting, none. And then new applications to be considered, and this is relating to the Coach and Horses Inn. So I'm going to ask each of you in turn, please, whether you accept or reject the application. And then I would ask you to give your reasons behind it. And can I please stress that these reasons must be given on the basis of objective opinion and not subjective ones. So the more evidential material that you can present, the better, I think, the stronger our case. Shall I start? Can I start with you, B?
Yes.
Do you accept or reject, and can you give me your reasons, please?
Yeah, I'm rejecting the application on the grounds of safety in one, which is the exit from the bar area for the general public. It does lead out straight out onto the 303. And, you know, I can see it being quite dangerous of an evening when it's dark and people have got to come out into that main road. Even accessing the pub in that way for the locals to go into is going to be quite dangerous. The other reason is the actual structures that are proposed aren't in keeping with what we've got in the village. And one is in terms of the fence line that's already erected on the 303 side, which is quite a high fence put up on the 303 on top of a, can you hear me? Sorry.
You don't mean the 303, do you? 356.
Sorry, 356.
Yeah.
I don't know why I've got 303 over my head. 356. Also, it's taken away from the hotel in terms of the amount of usage, and I can see a problem being around the back also. The structure that's proposed is not in keeping with what these structures that we've got in the village, and it will change it quite dramatically.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Jonathan, would you like to go?
I object.
Right.
My reasoning behind this is the change of use of the building. It's not to be taken lightly that you convert a commercial building, especially in this area, into residential accommodation. Run correctly, that business could easily employ a housekeeper or two, bar staff, waiting staff, kitchen, reception and maintenance, and also supply a good business to local businesses such as butchers and so on. They're reducing the number of bedrooms, from what I can see, commercial bedrooms, from 9 to 4, and they've reduced the bar area down by 50% and have removed all cellar equipment. My concern is that you can't, it would be a very simple thing for people to go and buy pubs, grind them into the floor and convert them into blocks of accommodation. It's just too easy to allow this thing to come in via the back door. And I really can't support this in any way. What a publican wants to do inside his building, if he wants to move rooms around and change bedrooms to bar areas and vice versa, is I don't have a massive concern about. But what I do have a concern about is the change of use from a commercial property that is absolutely viable. They took professional advice, the owners, and the professional advice was this should be a gold mine because of the area it's in. It's an outstanding area of outstanding natural beauty. We've got pubs either side that are commercially incredibly successful. There is nothing to stop this pub being a very successful commercial entity, except for the unwillingness of the owner to make it successful so they can convert it to residential property, which increases the value of the building. That's the end of that.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Chris.
Yes, I also object, Chairman, on a number of grounds. I agree totally with Jonathan. That was something I'd got written down, that it was actually a change of use by the back door. We also, looking at the original plans for when it was made into a hotel, when John did all that work in about 2016, you look at the original plans, the extent of the lawn, the extent of what would be normally soak away areas are now going to be hardcore. They've put parking spaces in, they've grubbed up a hedge, they've taken the lawn out completely and put a small area of astroturf in. Now, this is at a time when the Environment Agency are worried about the dam, and I'm worried about the runoff into the river. You're not allowed to do this to front gardens. You're not allowed to concrete them over. You have to have a permeable surface because of flooding. South Perrott has a history of flooding, and it could easily, we can't have this, Environment Agency can't do this work this year. They're going to have to wait till next year. We're having more extreme weather, and at the same time, somebody is getting rid of lawns, hedgerows, and various other things, which would help with flooding. The other issue is, and I have this on good authority, that bar that they have now got has about seating for about 30 people. Then you would include maybe 5 standing. In that case, their one unisex toilet is inadequate. Unless they start to limit, I know at the moment they probably would limit because of the social distancing, but unless they say only 25 people can go into that bar, they are illegal with their toilet facilities. And I object strongly to the whole, to the whole thing. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I apologise in advance for this. I'm going to be really, really boring. Well, I'm an academic, so I'm used to that sort of thing. But I'm going to read you what I've come up with in terms of evidence. And I'm going to read it to you because I think it's important that we as a parish council have clearly defined reasons for objection. The ones that I've heard so far, I think are fantastic. So bear with me, it'll be boring and most of it probably won't make a lot of sense to you, but I'll try and make it as understandable as I can. I'm going to start by saying that the drawing of the existing layout, which is number 3900-03, is incorrect. That's the drawing of what they claim to be the existing pub. And there are 3 areas immediately that are incorrect. First of all, the pub seating area was walled off in 2019. We will all remember this. But that wall is not shown on the drawing of the existing pub. Secondly, inside that designated seating area, a staircase was built, which gained access to the room above the so-called seating area. This staircase is not shown. Thirdly, the female and male toilets are not where they're shown on the drawing. They're located at the end of the reception area, as we all know, because we've used them. And Jill referred to that earlier. Now, the other drawing that I want to mention is drawing 3900-01A, which is also inaccurate. There is no such thing as an unused area in the car park. If you were to walk out now and look at the car park, you would see that it's filled with vehicles, and it always has been. The designation, quote, unused area, suggests it might be available for something other than a car park in the future. In the 2018 planning application for the conversion from a pub to a hotel, 28 car parking places were shown, not 9 as indicated in section 9 of the planning application. In the latest one, this number is shown to increase to 11, but it should in fact be a reduction of 17 from the last planning application. And the next point I want to draw is the one similar to one Chris mentioned. The drawing shows screening of Riverview Cottage from the neighbours on the other side of the river. This screening was a requirement of planning consent given in 2016. And to be very boring, it's WD/D 15/002692 13.8 and 15.13. In July 2017, a further application was made with regard to the screening. In this document, condition 1 of the original application was designated partially complied, i.e. they'd done a bit. Though the tree and landscape officer wrote, unfortunately, I do not consider the details provided to be of a satisfactory standard to meet the requirements of the condition, and therefore I cannot support this. Now, we all know in the village that no screening of any description has ever been created, despite it being a condition of planning approval and should not be shown as such on the drawings. Now, in 2016, the planning application WDD 15/002692 contained the following. Permanent occupation of the manager's flat, as shown on the approved floor plan drawing number 3672-03E, amended, received on 12/4/16, shall be limited to the manager of the Coach and Horses Inn and any resident dependents. It gave the following reason, quote, the site is not within a sustainable location for a new unrestricted market dwelling. That argument still applies. The planning application, I've given a portal reference here, refers to the dwelling Riverview Cottage as market housing. That's in section 16 of the application. This is in direct contradiction of the 2016 planning approval. On that basis alone, it should be rejected. Point 4, the 2016 planning approval was quite explicit in both its designation and the use to be made of the manager's flat. Despite this explicit injunction, according to the architect responsible for the current application, Mr. John Harris, quote, was not aware these changes required planning as it was only internal layout being affected, unquote. She goes on to say that, quote, all changes to the hotel and Riverview Cottage have been registered with Land Registry, unquote. As we have seen, however, this work directly contradicts the planning approval granted in 2016 and very clearly did and does require planning permission. It is hard to believe Mr. Harris was not aware of this fact. According to the 2016 planning agreement, dependents of the manager should be housed within the space designated for the manager. Therefore, creating an entirely new manager's flat, here called Coaching Corner, cannot be justified. Furthermore, a domino effect has now been created so that the eviction of the manager from the original space is used as a justification for the creation of Coaching Corner, which in turn is being used as a justification for an entirely new manager's flat. According to the architect's letter appended to the application, Mr. James Harris would like to, quote, get a manager in to run the hotel, unquote. Such an ambition runs entirely counter to the letter sent by the owner, Mr. John Harris, claiming that the hotel in its present state is not financially viable. Reducing the number of bed and breakfast rooms is likely to decrease viability still further, and so the need for a manager's flat is reduced even more. It should be noted that the drawing 3900-03 shows 4 designated bed and breakfast rooms rather than the 5 claimed in planning application section 17. Thus, section 17 is incorrect, there being a loss of 5 rooms by change of use or demolition, and the total rooms proposed, including changes of use, should be 4. So that's another error. The retrospective planning application 3900-03 shows no existing gate at the eastern end of the building. 3900-02A shows a gate leading directly onto the A356. Section A in the current planning application says that there is no direct access onto the main road. This error should be corrected and note taken of the potential hazard to pedestrians and road users of this gate. The next point, the fencing created in front of Coaching Corner is too high since it interferes with traffic sight lines. It also fails to reflect the architectural vernacular of the village. Number 8, the plans for the bar show the entrance and exit directly on the A356. This is a clear hazard for both pedestrians and vehicles. That one's been mentioned already. My final point, if you're still awake, all the evidence cited above clearly points towards a form of development creep. Each time, in small increments, the pub, then hotel, is reduced in size and replaced by marketable properties. The plans as presented here show a tiny bar without a cellar and access that is both inappropriate and quite possibly dangerous. If approved, the Coach and Horses will no longer serve as a social amenity for South Perrott and its surroundings. They should therefore be rejected. Sorry about that, but I think it's the only way that we can get it all down clearly that they are in breach of all sorts of elements within this application, and we must prevent it. So, we are unanimous in our rejection.
Yes.
Are there any further points that people want to say?
Yes, if I may just, Chairman, John Harris's covering letter to the Planning Authority when submitting these plans had so many inaccuracies in it. It reads like one of Grimm's fairy tales, frankly. He says the Skittles finished. The Skittles finished because he got rid of the Skittle Alley. His grandson was too old to live with his parents. Well, I don't know. That may be a child welfare issue. Brandon is only 12 and he's too old to live with his parents. He says that the pub remained open while the works were going on. This is untrue. The pub was closed for 6 days of the week and opened for about 3 hours on a Friday evening. If that's a pub remaining open, I'd like to know what one is closed. He says that all the toilets were outside, and I have it on good authority from a long-term resident in this village, that the ladies' toilet was inside the pub, only the gents was outside, as was very often the case in country pubs, and is still the case at the Two Brewers in South Petherton. But the ladies' toilet was always inside. This letter actually compromises, it's just a tissue of fabrication, and it's infuriating to read it.
Thank you. Well, I think we've made our position very clear, and if it's appropriate, I would hope that we can request. Well, Rebecca's already made it very clear what the process is. We are unanimous in rejecting the application, so we now wait the decision of the officers, and if they contradict what we've said, then it then moves back to Rebecca.
Rebecca has left the meeting.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Okay, well that's fine. She gave her position very clearly. Okay, I'm very happy with that. Thank you very much indeed, colleagues, because I think between all of us we've managed to cover a lot of bases there. Now I think we've got a very delicate planning application here, which requires Mr. Baker to declare an interest.
Oh, I have to declare a pecuniary interest because it is on my property, and it is. Well, I'm not allowed to talk about it. Carry on, please. Make no comment.
Right, can you explain what it is, Jane?
Yeah, well, I'm allowed to invite Mr. Baker to explain the problems. Mr. Baker, would you like to tell us as an invitation as to what you are suggesting?
As you're all local, you know we have a beautiful magnolia tree outside of on the side of our property.
Yes. Yeah.
I know nothing about arborism or cutting trees or anything at all. And consequently, in the last 4 or 5 years that we've been here, this tree has got larger and larger, and it's now quite difficult for Sunnyview, my next door neighbour, to really pull out safely. And it's also a bit of a hazard, people coming out of the village hall and people just genuinely going up Pipple Pen / School Hill. We aren't proposing on removing it, but we are proposing on getting a professional in just to straighten it up so it follows the landline out the front. And just makes it a little bit safer. And that's really all it is. It's just to keep it in line with the rest. It needs a trim.
Brilliant. Okay. All those in favour? Okay, yeah. Thank you. You have our consent.
You have our blessing.
Thank you.
You have our blessing. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on then to other planning matters, of which are there any, Jane?
Not that I know about, no.
Okay, thank you. Number 6, highways update. Well, we've had a cleaner around, haven't we? A mechanical cleaner. He did a very good job, actually. He actually went up School Hill, which was great. I'm sorry, Church Hill, sorry, which was good. Any other comment? Yeah, School Hill, they were going to do some work in School Hill, and that hasn't happened, has it, Jane?
It hasn't, no. I think Vicky Reid is keeping an eye on it for me, and she says as soon as anything happens, she will let me know.
Right.
But I've heard nothing yet.
I believe there was to be some surface dressing as well at some point.
That's right, yes, yeah. Yes, that's right. Chris?
Was the thing in School Hill, was that the pavement, the issue with...
Yeah.
Have I got that right? Yeah. And nothing's happened?
No.
Not yet, no.
Okay. Right.
But Vicky's on it.
Oh, right. Okay, well, then something probably will...
Need I say more?
Yeah.
If I don't hear very soon, I will chase them just to get an update.
Thank you. Right, number 7, item 7 on the agenda, tree planting scheme. Clerk to update, please.
Yeah, well, sadly, our project coordinator, Paul, can't be with us tonight, but he has sent me a little update of where he has got to, and then I'll go on to what we've done as well. So recently he walked the village with Jill Turner and Michael Dower, who is from Beaminster and is running an ecology project there. And Michael provided some very useful advice about what species would thrive and in which areas. Michael Dower also suggested the possibility of, to mark what the village are trying to do, maybe ceremonially planting something as a focus, but that's obviously something we'll need to discuss, and even the location, the tree and the location would need discussion. But if we are thinking it might be a good idea, then it's something we need to think about. Paul also suggested that the planting season will be from between sort of November and February, and he did wonder whether we could make an activity of it for children during their school holidays, because it might make them feel involved with the village and with the particular trees that they are thinking about planting. How it would work, I have no idea, but it was a suggestion. So in addition to that, we obviously want to let the village know about the scheme. So we've drafted a flyer with the basic outline of all the details, and it's currently with Paul for his thoughts. And the idea is that we will get them printed and distributed to every household in South Perrott. And we have come up with the idea of getting it inserted into the next edition of the Pump and Pound, which will be going out the weekend of the 26th and 27th of September. And the printers who produce the pump and pound have said they are very happy to print a black and white flyer and insert it into each of the South Perrott copies, about 120 of them, for the sum of £20, if we're happy to pay that. I personally think that's quite a good offer. By the time, if we did it ourselves and then bought paper and cartridge ink and then had to put it into each copy, I think £20 is a bit of a bargain, but obviously over to you for a decision on that. In addition to going out to every household, we need to put it on the notice board, on the South Perrott Facebook, and on the website. And I did wonder, Jonathan, if it might be possible to put some copy that people might be able to download and then either send back to the clerk or to Paul or to put through a letterbox.
Yeah, I can make that happen.
But I'll talk to you about that if necessary. And the return date for the form is proposed as the 11th of October, which should give plenty of time to order the saplings and get them ready for this year's planting season. Any questions? Jill, sorry, have you got anything to add? Thank you.
Okay, so I'm very pleased that this.
Were you asking Jill there? Sorry.
Did you say? Oh, yeah.
Jane, did you say June? Did you say
Jill?
Jill or Sue? Sorry.
Yeah,
Jill, and she's giving me the thumbs up, so we're happy.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I personally think £20 is a good deal, don't you? Any objection?
No.
Are we happy with that?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Britain in Bloom competition, which is kind of related, you know, in a strange sort of way, you know, into the segue. Oh, sorry, Chris.
Yes, I put this on the agenda, and I really don't know very much about it.
Okay.
But I do have, and I've asked Mike Gardner, who has actually been successful in running these in other places, to maybe say a few words now, with your permission, Chairman, to say a few words about how these things operate. From what I understand, the main thing that I understand is that as a first-time entry into the Britain and Bloom, South Perrott would not have to pay any fee.
Right.
So at the moment, we're in a win-win situation because we don't actually have to pay anything. But if I can, Chairman, hand you over to Mike, who will, you know, fill in the details.
At the moment, he looks like he's muted.
I think he is muted. Can Tony, can you unmute Mike?
I'm clicking away, but he's not doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
How is that?
Excellent.
Whoops. Okay. Whoops. There we go.
Oh.
Happens with all the best presentations, the things collapse. First of all, Mr. Chairman and members of the Parish Council, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you all about the proposal that I will make that we join Britain in Bloom. I'm sure that many of you will have heard of the competition. It's been going for a very long time. And effectively, what it does is to encourage people to showcase the place they live and the environment they live in, and so on and so forth. As far as we're concerned, we're a small village. We have a number of opportunities within the village to highlight what we can do and plant areas and just make it look good. It doesn't need huge experience or expertise. It just needs enthusiasm and it just needs participation. And I think that participation is the reason why I want to propose this, because we've been through a pretty difficult time this year, particularly. And one of the things that we could do to all get involved in making our village something a little bit special, tidying it up, putting some stuff around. It's very inclusive. Everyone in the village is involved in it. If you don't know a dandelion from a daisy, it doesn't matter. You've got something to add. You've got something to put in there. And it's a marvelous competition. My own experience goes back over a few years, where I was involved in a company that was one of the major sponsors of a place called Petersfield in Hampshire. So I've got that sort of background. The place I lived, where Maggie and I lived, was a place called Liphook, and it changed the involvement in the In Bloom competition, changed the village. It made it just really had a huge impact. So at this stage, what I'm asking for is for an endorsement of the parish council to say, yes, let's give it a go. It will take place next year. COVID affected it this year, so it became effectively an online event. It may be the same next year, but that doesn't matter, because we can photograph what we do, and we can enter into the competition, which is both nationally and locally. And that's it. It's something we can get involved in, and I think it'll be good for everyone.
Sounds great. Anyone comment?
I think it's a good idea. We've done some very good work up at Millennium. I haven't done any work up there, but people have done very good work up at the Millennium Green doing the pond.
Yeah.
We've got things like the hedgehog and obviously the tree planting. There's plenty of potential with the pound and various other areas. I think it's for not a lot of money. We could have a good chance of doing it.
Well, the flower festival.
Well, at this stage, there's no requirement for money from the parish council at this stage. What I'm looking for is the endorsement of the parish council, so that when the village, we have to officially enter the competition, and ideally we would enter the competition under the auspices of the parish council. Now, there's lots of things involved in the organisation of it, and what we do, and how we do what we do, and that's where I come in, because that's something that I want to do, and I feel quite capable of doing.
When does this happen, Mike? When do you have to apply, and
sorry?
When do you apply, and do we apply now?
Well, we could apply at any time.
Okay.
I'm sorry? What was that, sorry?
No, I just said okay.
Well, all we do is register.
Okay.
Sorry?
I think it's a very good idea. Sorry, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you, B.
I think it's a very good idea, because inner city, where I worked in Hackney, all the inner city boroughs took part in the competition, and it was, we had it called Hackney in Bloom, and basically what it is, it worked really well in a smaller place, because it just helps. They come and judge the whole village on the planting, or the front gardens, or the back gardens, or just the area in terms of gardening and flowers and how it's presented. So it's an opportunity for everybody to showcase their front gardens, or their back gardens, or their pots, or anything really. So it's just a competition that happens mainly in the summer, and someone comes around and judges it in terms of, has a walk around the village and gives us a mark, and that could be any time in the summer that they come and judge the village, and we're judged against other entries, other villages that have entered.
Thank you, B. Chris, did you?
Sorry, B, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I've lost you. Our screen's gone. But what you're saying is absolutely true. We do. There are national judges and local judges that come round, and there's a national, and there's a regional, and indeed there's a local competition, and it's a great deal of fun. And the thing is, it involves everybody.
Yeah.
Even if you put a hanging basket up, or you put something out your front door, or whatever you do, it involves everyone, and there's an enormous amount of pride and participation, as you've just said.
Okay, I think I'm going to call that. There's a clear, unanimous agreement that we should enter. So go ahead, Mike, with whatever you need to do with our blessing.
Well, that's great, and thank you all very much.
No, thank you.
What now is that I'll. Hang on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'll do is to register, and
Okay.
then there will be looking toward in the new year when we start to look at what we can do in the village. We'll need to put together a team of people, some volunteers and so on, who will be all in the planting and looking after the village and so on. And I really, really hope that everyone gets involved. And what we'll do is to organise some kind of publicity, flyers or whatever, to do that. Now, the other thing that is very important, and you need to know this, is that we will have commercial sponsorship, because commercial sponsorship is what makes the thing viable. The national competition is sponsored by the RHS, and then each region have their own sponsors who put money and put facilities in. Now, what I would propose is that part of my job would be to get those sponsors involved. There would be a couple of commercial people and maybe some local people, some residents who would say, yes, I'd like to make this particular thing available. But all that is going to be part of the process. So there is a commercial aspect to it, and you must be comfortable with that.
Okay, I think basically, yeah, Chris.
I was just wanting to say that from the way Mike has put that very well, that it doesn't actually matter if you win or not.
No, absolutely.
The idea is the doing of it, making the village look nice and look nice for. Let's face it, we live here.
Yeah.
So it will look nice for us.
Yeah.
And the tree planting scheme is terrific, but it won't actually show for a number of years, whereas this will show almost immediately. So I propose that we take it on board and enter it.
Yeah. Okay. Seconded. Well, I mean, yeah, no question. Perhaps Mike could come to our next meeting in a couple of months' time and update us and push us in the right direction. Thank you very much indeed.
Well,
Mike.
look, Mr. Chairman and the committee, thank you very, very much. What I do need from you is an email confirming this, because so that it gets registered with the Southwest competition.
Okay.
So if you could arrange that would be great. And thank you very much again.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, moving on. I'm moving on to item 8, correspondence. There was none. Finance, number 9. We've had a financial report which was very brief. Has everyone seen the financial report? It shows the clerks' salaries outrageously high and stationary costs, but that apart, we've had no expenses and no income, so not a huge event really. Happy for me to move on. Any questions?
Would it be appropriate at this stage to ask about the continued use of Zoom? It does incur a cost, but given we're never going, well, certainly for a while, we're not going to have more than 6 people in a room. Should we consider taking out a yearly subscription? Buying monthly is quite expensive compared
What's the difference in prices, Jonathan?
About 30–40%. I forgot to mention that we should have cancelled last month and resubscribed this month or whatever, because I covered the cost of last month's Zoom, even though we didn't use it. I don't mind doing that. But I will charge for this month's Zoom. But going forward, we will save a significant amount of money, 30–40%, if we do a 1 year upfront. I also think it might be useful, even if we went back into the village hall, to also record it, because we get a better attendance generally. Not great today, but a better attendance, and we've got it for prosperity. So if people want to go away, or they want to watch it later,
or even posterity,
yeah. So I think we should consider it, but I can't remember if this is the right place to ask.
How much is it, Jonathan? Do you know?
I think we're paying about 14 quid a month, but let me just check. Oh, I can't minimise because I'm recording.
Oh, don't worry.
Can you... It sounds right, Jonathan. It was something like that. It was 11 something, wasn't it? Plus VAT or something.
Yeah, I think it was about that.
That's a month, is it?
Yeah.
Basically, what you're saying is, if you do an annual subscription, you get sort of 2 free months. Would that be about right?
It worked. We
would pay for 10 months.
Yeah, we save £2 a month plus VAT. So a year would be 119 quid, as opposed to what that is a year, about 140 quid. Yeah. So we save £24 before VAT. So we get as you said, almost bang on the nose. Yes. 2 months free. Yeah.
It's nearly 2 meetings a year free.
Well, 1 meeting, because we do them bi-monthly, don't we?
And a short one.
Yeah. Anyway, it's maybe something.
Is it worth, as we haven't got a meeting for a couple of months, and you say we can cancel it any time, Jonathan, is it worth cancelling it for now and re-looking at the position before the January November meeting or something?
Absolutely, yeah. I would plan to do that. I just forgot to do it last month.
By then, we might have an idea. We might have an idea of what the future holds, and then we can make a decision whether we should just go for 1 more month in November, or think actually this is the way ahead. Let's go for the year.
Yep. That's absolutely fine. I'll do that.
Very sensible. Yeah. Okay. Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Moving on to item 10, matters of report and items for next meeting. I have nothing. Clark, do you have anything?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman.
Members?
I have nothing.
No, nothing.
B? Nothing. Okay, thank you very much. Dates of next meeting. It's suggested that we go for Thursday, the 12th of November, 2020. If there's no objection immediately, then let's go ahead with that date. If there are any, on reflection, if you find that that's impossible, please give us a shout and we'll get together. Chris?
Just one point, Chairman. Does it have to be a Thursday? I mean, no. Is that in tablets of stone somewhere?
No.
Because actually the only thing that's going on at the village hall at the moment, as Jill will know, is it happens on a Thursday. On a Thursday early evening. So it makes it slightly difficult to sort of get to the. But it's actually fine when the meeting is actually going to be held in the village hall, because all we have to do is stay there. But when you've got to pack up and come home, and it makes life somewhat difficult. But that's just for the future. I'm not making a suggestion that we change everything now. But at the moment, as I say, the only thing going on in the village hall is going on a Thursday.
Is there any problem with the Wednesday? Certainly not with me.
Not with me.
Nor me.
Jonathan?
No. On just sort of general.
Well, should we make it Wednesday, the 11th of November then?
Yes, I'm happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Everyone's in agreement. Now, finally, we have a section which is entitled Public Discussion to Raise Items for Future Agendas. So at this point, you can turn off your mute button, members of the public, and come with your suggestions for the next meeting. is there anything that you would like to raise for the next meeting? Is that your hand up, Sue?
Well, yes, really. One thing is just information, which is about the pump and pound items, please, by the 21st. And just to say, we'll be distributing, as you know, the survey for the trees, as we've said before. The other thing I was thinking about was the village cleanup in line with the Britain in Bloom. I have noticed walking around that we do seem to have quite a lot of rubbish, particularly again in Lecture Lane, people dropping litter. And I don't know if we should think about organising another village clean-up at some time. I mean, when I was a parish councillor, we didn't necessarily do it through the auspices of the parish council, but I know that Jonathan very kindly supplied some of the equipment, and we had various, you know, the tabards, whatever you call them, you know. So here's the cat again, wants to join in. Anyway, it's just a thought.
Okay, that's, it's a good thought. Thank you.
That's for
Any
the
other?
future, you know, village clean-up anyway.
Yeah, village clean-up.
Mr. Chairman?
And items by, did I say the 21st or 22nd? For
You said 21st, didn't you?
Oh, sorry. Well, actually, you can have till the 22nd if you like.
Okay.
Footprints have been very quick off the mark lately.
For members of the public, can I just mention the 21st is the final date at which you can make comments to Dorset Council regarding the planning application. So if you want to make your own personal comments, you have to do it by then. Anthony, did you have something to say? No?
Hello? Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, I'd just like to pick up on the point that Sue has made, because this is a very, very important part of the In Bloom competition. It isn't just, you know, what pretty flowers or plants there may be in June or July. It is very much about the whole village, the way it looks, right the way through the entire year. And of course, keeping it clean and tidy is very much a part of that. And we must put together, or I must put together, a working party to try and keep these things clean. And I would like very much Sue to be involved in that, if she'd say yes.
Oh,
there you go, Sue, you're on the spot.
This is like one of these
I
online
can't think of a better person.
dating things, isn't it? You're down on one knee.
Yeah, there you go. Listen, this is just the start.
But on that note, don't forget
Anthony,
to come to the
you're
church.
not going to get let off either.
Hey, steady. Dominic, Anthony, you need to unmute. Anthony, you need to unmute.
Right.
There you go. Good. Yeah.
Good. I completely agree with what has just been said. It really boils down to pride of place. And we've got a super village. I'm one of these people who is obsessed about picking up bits of paper if I find them in our road, for example, or any rubbish that's. I was brought up that way, and it seems to me if people leave rubbish around, we really ought to keep on top of it and make sure that the place looks good. The pound, the flower show committee were pledging to keep the pound looking beautiful, or rather at least attractive. We haven't done anything, unfortunately, recently because we haven't had any meetings. But I've certainly got some ideas for the flower bed in the pound, and I would very much like to implement it.
Super, thank you. Well, this sounds like it could really run, and it sounds like a great idea. Thank you. So that will be another item for the agenda next time. Are there any other items for the agenda for next time from members of the public? Okay, I see heads are shaking. Well, I think this has been a very positive meeting, and we've managed to keep the time down reasonably this time. So thank you all very much indeed for your contributions and for your attendance. Thank you as ever to Jonathan for his technological skill, and Sue for her menagerie, which I don't think we should forget. It's not often you see a cat on display, is it? And to all of you for your forbearance, where certainly in my case, it got really boring, but it has to be done, I think. Okay, on that happy note, go away and have a drink. I'm going to anyway.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.